Okay, welcome back. So the next thing I want to look at is some of the item properties that we have available. So these are really interesting sound design tools. They unlock a lot of creativity in my mind, and you can adjust the pitch of the sound, and you can also adjust the play rate. So I've got this sound here. That's a nice one. And you know, there's pitch adjustments that we can do. So that's nice. Could take it back to 0 there. Now there's a shortcut key where if you hold down Alt and Shift and hover over an item, you see the cursor comes up with this tuning fork kind of thing, and that allows you to do these sort of micro adjustments, which is really, really handy. So that's a really handy one. Cool. So that's sort of one dimension of manipulation, if you will. The other one, the one that I'm going to be talking about today, is this playback rate. So you can change the playback rate, and you would have noticed that it said preserve pitch when changing rate. I usually leave that on. But yeah, in a really clean way, it plays quicker. Nice. There we go. Nice. Cool. There was something I wanted to demonstrate, but it didn't look like this was doing it properly or the way I expected. So let's look at maybe this one over here. Whoopsies, too many. So item properties. Let's do it again. 7. Okay, now. So you will see that the well, the term for this in Reaper is loop source. So the source has been looped, because you would have noticed that when you change the playback rate, the actual item length doesn't change. So to fill that space, Reaper loops it for you. So control over that is this tick box here. And now it's gone. And yeah, so when I do the script that we're going to make together, I like the loop source to be off. So that's going to be part of the script that we make. It's going to automatically turn that tick box off whenever we run either of these shortcuts. Cool. So that's what we want to achieve with this script. We want a shortcut key that will increment this value up or down. And we wanted to turn off loop source each time we do it. So yeah, that combined with the tuning fork thing, combined with volume up and down, you know, this gives you a lot of control with quick editing for sound design. Just quickly, that shortcut for nudging up the volume up and down. You know, I have this bound to a macro. That's why it's quite quick for me. You might want to choose something a little more sensible. But yeah, that's what those commands are called: nudge, item, volume. Cool. All right, let's get into it. So in our folder, item, play rate, nudge, up. Because we're going to have another script that is nudge down. It's basically going to be a copy and paste of the up one, but just in the opposite direction. So we're going to focus on the up one first. So play rate is the name of that thing. So let's jump into it. define the function, the main function, and then call it at the bottom. Cool, so what do we need to do? Well, I guess we need to sort of decide what we want the functionality of this thing to be. For instance, if you are highlighting multiple items, I would think that we probably want to do this manipulation on both. So it might be a case of getting the number of items selected and then looping through those items and doing the same thing for each. We've done that sort of thing plenty of times now. So yeah, that's probably what we want to achieve. So loop through all selected items and do the following. So we need to get a reference to the item, get a reference to the active take. I'm pretty sure from memory we do it on the take level, not the item level. We'll find out. We need to get the current play rate value, because we're going to take the current value, add a little bit to it, set that as the new value. Get the current play rate value. Whoopsies, oh boy. Up here, we're going to define a increment amount. What would a good one be? I suppose if we do, you might want to change this depending on how you think it feels. But maybe if you do 0.25, that might be a good number. Then if you hit the shortcut key 4 times, now you double speed. Another 4 times, it's triple speed. That might feel pretty good, and it will give you sort of enough control. And if you really need to fine tune it, maybe you can just go into the item properties and set a number directly. So yeah, maybe that for starters. Get the current play value, calculate a new play rate value, and that's going to be current play rate plus increment amount. That's cool. And then finally, we're going to set the play rate on the item, or take, whichever repo wants us to do. Now, the other thing that we have to do is we want to turn off source loop on this item. So remember, every time we touch an item with this script, it's going to turn that off. Maybe you disagree with that, maybe you don't want that feature, and then just don't do that bit, or comment out the section of code that facilitates that. You can decide on the functionality of your own script. Okay, cool. And we'll need to count the number of selected items like we do in most of our scripts. All right, that's probably enough to get started, I reckon. Let's jump into our favorite page, the Reaper API. We're going to count selected media items. Local num of selected items equals. We are going to store a reference to 0, call it active project. We've done that plenty of times before. And then if we're going to do our favorite check to make sure that we at least have some items selected, because if we don't, we're not going to proceed. Cool, so if we are selecting items, then we get in here. So loop through all of them and do the following. So we've done this before. This is from I equals 0 until number of selected items minus 1 do. We've talked about this in previous videos, but just real quick, how Reaper if I have these 6 selected, how Reaper indexes selected items, or indexes anything really. The first one is number 0, then number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 6 collected, and they are indexed 0 through 5, not 1 through 6. So that is the reason why when we do our for loop, we need to start at index 0 and then go until the quantity minus 1. That's the reason for that. Okay. So we loop through, yep. Get a reference to the item. So what is that? Get media item. Cool. So be careful with this one because get media item. This is the function that you would use if you are looking through all the items in the session, not just the selected items. So that's actually not gonna be the one that we want. Is it get selected media item? Yeah, that's the one. Cool. So this is the one that looks at the selected index, not the total count of items in the session. That one stung me before making that mistake. All right, so we store a reference to the item as a local variable called item. We pass in the active project, and the index that we're looking at is whatever the iteration value is up to. So the first time we run through the loop, I will be 0, so that's the index of the item that we're looking at. The second time we run through the loop, I will be 1. So we're looking at the 1th item in the index, and that'll be a reference to that, and so on and so forth. Okay. So get a reference to the active take. Get media take, get active take, get active take, get active take. So what I'm looking at when I'm trying to tell if it's the right one, I'm looking at the parameters, the arguments that it passes in, because, you know, the plan is to get a reference to the item, and then, you know, it's sort of implied that we're using the item reference to get the active take. That's why we did it in that order. So when I'm looking through these functions trying to decide which one is the correct one, I'm looking at what the arguments are, as well as what the return value is. So this returns a reference to a take, and you pass in a reference to the item. So that's how I know that that's the one that I'm looking for. Local take equals, and we pass in item. Cool. All right, so loop source. I've forgotten how to do that. I'm gonna look for loop source. Loop source. Yes. So that was the thing that I remembered. That's why I searched for it. So we've. Oh no. So this is a get function. So that's no good. We want a set function. We're close. I'm gonna search for this. Cool. So set media item info. So it's a set function. That's good. We're setting it on the item level. So maybe we didn't actually need the take at all. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know why I thought that. Anyway, we pass in an item, not a take. And for the parameter name, you pass in loop source and then new value. So I'm going to assume that if you pass in 0, it will be false and it will turn off loop source. If you pass in 1, it'll turn it on. Doesn't actually say, but that's what I think it is. That's what it usually is. 1 is true, 0 is false, 1 is on, 0 is off. That sort of thinking. This page could really do with more detail, but anyway, the detail's probably elsewhere. I just try and guess instead. All right. So set media item info, we pass in the item. The parameter that we're doing is b loop circ in string. Oops, is in string. There we go. So I'm gonna, instead of just writing in 0 or 1, actually, yeah, I am just gonna write it in because I feel like that's sufficiently readable. We don't need to make a variable that says that. And you know what we could do, we could write a comment here, turn off loop source, or you could write 0 turns off loop source. So that's a note for yourself later, like, oh, that's why it's 0. That's sufficiently clear in my mind. Cool. So now we want to get the play rate. So that might be the same function. Oh no, that's set. But play rate. Ah, you know what? I think this is where we use the take from memory. Play rate. Set media item take info play rate. So yeah, we are going to use that when we do the setting. So we'll grab that for later. I'm going to search for play rate because it should be the same thing. Get media item info. Here we go. So this is the getter function. It returns a number. And the parameter name that we pass in is d underscore play rate in capital letters. D is for double, by the way. Double is a type, is a data type, one of the number data types. That's why it's D. D play rate. Local current. Play rate equals. So here we pass in the take, and that'll return the play rate. That's cool. Cool, so calculate new play rate. So current play rate, I just want to make sure that that's spelt exactly the same. Copy and paste over the top of it is a safe way of doing that. Plus increment amount, do the same thing. So yeah, this will be whatever it is plus 0.25 each time you run the script. Cool, and then we set this value. You set it on the take, and the parameter is play rate, and the number that we're passing in, the new value is, right, we didn't actually do that. So new value equals that. There we go. And that should be pretty good. This 4 doesn't have an N down here, so I'm going to do that. Yeah, I think we're looking pretty good. Let's try it. So the rate's 7 at the moment. I'm just going to set that back to 0. Oh, 0.001. Right. So I hate this about Ruby scripts. You run the script. That was me clicking. It doesn't appear to have changed, but then when you click over here, now it is changed. So yeah, I really don't like that. But there is, what is it? Update timeline. Update timeline. So that will make any changes appear on screen. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Let's do it again. There we go. Nice. Cool. What about this one? Nice. Cool. Great one. Very nice. Very nice. All right. So that was relatively straightforward. Now we're going to do the inverse script, the one that takes away. What's the best way to do that? You know what I might do is up here, local direction equals 1. And then down here, put that in brackets, multiplied by direction. So multiplication, I don't know if this has come up yet in these in this series. Multiplication is that star symbol. So what is it? Shift 8 is the star symbol. So what we're doing here is we're multiplying it by 1. Actually, and I put those brackets in the wrong places. Actually, it'll work without brackets, but I sort of overuse brackets just to make it more readable, even though that won't actually change the functionality. So what this is going to do is it's going to take the increment amount, which is 0.25, multiply it by 1. So this is still going to be 0.25. So that doesn't actually change the functionality of the script. But the reason why we're doing that is when we make our nudge down, this is going to be -1. Cool. So that's good. That's good. I'm going to set a shortcut for that if I can find it. Item Playrate nudge up. So I want that to be that one. Cool. So let's just test that. Nice. All right. So I'm going to go edit action. I'm going to go Control A, copy. Copied it all. I'm going to go new action, new Reaper script. Instead of nudge up, it's going to be nudge down. Paste it all in. And the only difference with this one is the direction is going to be -1. So just to clarify what that means, when we're down here with the new value, it's going to be current play rate plus increment amount, which is 0.25, times -1. So this whole expression here will be minus 0.25. So, and when you do plus minus 0.25, it's the same as minus 2.5. So it's going to subtract 0.25 from the current play rate. In other words, down. So let's save that. Whoopsies. Let's save that. Give that this shortcut. Grid interval. Oh boy. Hang on. I thought I had this all perfectly mapped out. What have I done wrong? Grid interval. No, that's cool. That's cool. That's what I do want. Yeah. I'll think of a different shortcut for that grid interval stuff. All right. So here we go. Down, 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 down. Up, 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 up. Nice. So that's really handy. I like that. Oh, that's interesting. When you go down, it sort of slams into 0 really quick. That's funny, like, because when in my work, yeah, I typically only go up. I don't really go down very often. Interesting. Sounds really clean. I thought it would sound super grainy. Nice. Yeah, 0.01 isn't going to give you much. Yeah, so that's interesting. That's interesting. So I guess what I'm thinking here is that instead of it being an increment amount, it could be It could be like a percentage value. Like if it's less than 1, if current play rate is less than 1, then it could decrease by percentages rather than just a set increment. That could be something that we do in the next video. I wasn't expecting this to be a two-parter, but that seems useful. Yeah, let's look at that in part 2 of this video. Cool, thanks.